Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday was a very fun day in the world of chess. If you missed it, one of the largest chess creators on YouTube, many of you obviously know him, GothamChess, hosted a crypto tournament sponsored or at least in partnership with DeFi, which is some sort of crypto website. And the tournament was played on... That's very strange. That's never happened with my microphone before. The tournament was held on... Okay, anyway, the tournament was held on the other chess website, not one called chess.com, where some of your favorite chess.com partner streamers aren't usually playing. But an exception was made. First place was a Bitcoin. So it was about $50,000. And then there was obviously some DeFi tokens as well. So first, Lichess crashed. It was supposed to be a 2-minute per player tournament. It didn't work because 17,000 people or more tried to join, so they ran it again. And in this video, I'm going to take you through some of my games, some of the best wins that I had. I'm going to show you 3 games, including one against none other than Dubov, one of the best players in the world. And you can skip ahead to that game if you wish. There's timestamps in the video player. Don't do it, though, because you already know I'm going to yell at you when you get there, so you might as well look at all the games. They're all pretty fun. Yeah, I mean, Eric Rosen beat Hikaru. That was one of the craziest things that happened. And we didn't get a chance to see Hikaru versus Magnus, but hopefully they resume the tournament at a later date. So this is one of my earlier rounds. This obviously was played on... I'm too scared to say it. My mic might cut out again. The other website. This game was a King's Indian defense, and I believe both of us are playing with a minute on the clock because we did something called berserking, which is when you cut your time in half in a tournament format. And then you get bonus points if you win with a half time control. So he plays bishop to g4 against my 4-pawn attack. Normally, black is trying to play in the center here. And I played bishop e2. Now here, black really should not be playing this move. But again, it's bullet, so we're not going to be playing super accurately. More often than not, black should strike in the center with e5 or c5, or at least like reroute first to apply pressure and then come forward with the pawns. Bishop takes f3 is just not very challenging. It just sort of gives away the bishop. And now knight d7. So my opponent completely voluntarily retreats, but it's clear that they are going to accomplish the move e5. So here it's very principled for white to take on e5, and then push. You take and push, take and push. That is kind of what you were trying to do. There's a decent idea here to play knight c6 or sometimes even c5 without taking to just totally explode everything. Opponent does this, and now we lock the center. Now, black oftentimes, if white takes a full center like this, is going to try to play on the queen side dark squares because you've put all your pawns on light squares. Now, what white should do here is expand. And first, I develop my bishop. And then when the knight gets guarded, either by pawn or by queen or by other knight, I will now expand with the move b4. If white doesn't do that, if white just waits even for a second, black plays a5. And just so you understand the disaster of allowing black dark square control, like something like this, like black totally is fine on the queen side now because white is not expanding in the proper way. In King's Indian positions, black is oftentimes going to play f5, and so white needs to be quick on the queen side with play like this. And here there is one and basically only one move. If you watch my video against Ben Feingold, you'll know that Ben Feingold played this move against me, except the colors were reversed. If you didn't watch that video, then you're just not a true fan. I mean, I really don't know what to tell you, you know? It's a little bit upsetting, but okay. You were going to confess at some point, so c5. White really needs to do this because white has to get d6 or c6 to take as much space as possible, and at some point, I mean, obviously, black is going to play the move f5. a5 is played. I have the option here to come forward, but instead, I'm trying to keep as much tension on the queen side as possible because I'm not really sure what is going to happen, whether I'm going to break through on d6 or take or put my knight on b5. But if you just have to make sure that when everything clears, you're defending everything, and I am. So we get this, and my opponent doesn't take my pawn, but rather apply some pressure to it. At this point, I have a couple of calm ways forward. Like I can play queen a7, attacking the weakness and actually defending my own. But it's a bullet game, so I impulsively jump forward with d6, which visually doesn't look like it does much because I'm going to lose a pawn. Which is why after cd6, I don't take this, but rather I take that. So I've sort of cleared down the forest, and now my bishop defends my pawn, and we are escorting it to the end, and it's going to have the queen. Also, by going d6, I've done something called clearance sacrifice, so my knight will transfer to d5. So there's a lot of good here. I mean, from a positional standpoint, white is completely winning. I actually played knight d5 first. I attacked the queen, Zwischenzug, in between move, and now the game is simply over. I mean, white is completely winning. White is completely winning because the pawn and the queen side. That's it. I mean, black's play here is non-existent. It's an optical illusion that f5 will accomplish anything, but you still need to be able to deal with it. So I play queen a2. Queen a2 is setting up a check. I want to check the king by moving my knight and maybe winning the queen. Not so simple, but it's an idea, to which my opponent promptly moves out of the way. At this point, I'm like, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to push my pawn to b7. Might as well. It gets one square closer to queening, and it's not really a liability whatsoever. So the opponent plays knight f6. I play queen c2 because I'm trying to keep my center together, and I actually blunder away my advantage. After takes, I now no longer am able to support this pawn as well as before, and because we trade knights in this fashion, the pawns now come forward together. It's bullet. It's gonna happen, but it's still kind of instructive, you know, to see how to convert advantages. What did I do there? I traded incorrectly. I transformed the position in a bad way. What should I have done? I should have been a little bit more aggressive, and on knight takes d5, I actually should take with my queen. Believe it or not, this is a different story, because if I get rid of the queen, attacking this pawn is not even possible, because rook c1, rook c8, so something like this. There's always problems with the back rank. And so if my opponent plays h6, I mean, I still go to the back rank. So I should have traded queens, but because I didn't trade queens, my opponent is now able to back the queen up and actually target my pawn. However, it was necessary to play queen d7 and not queen e7. What is the difference? I actually now have a way of protecting this pawn. This is a very instructive moment. If you ever have a pawn on the 7th rank, you can put your queen on the final one. And now white is still winning, because my pawn and queen protect each other. And if the opponent plays something like queen to d8, well, then we already said trading queens is good, right? And then I'm getting in with my rook. So queen c8 is a gangster move, sacrificing the queen to potentially make a new one. And now the remainder of the game is basically going to be spent pulling apart all of these defenses. So the opponent is still attacking me. I now play bishop to a7. That is the only piece still remaining, right? So opponent goes knight d7. And at this point, I can actually maybe make a queen. No, I can't actually. That's very funny. I can't make a queen. Knight takes b8. And I'm losing because I can't take on b8, which is why I didn't make a queen. Instead, here, I found a very nice idea. The rook is overloaded. It can't guard both, so rook takes f5. It's an optical illusion that pawn is actually protected. So rook takes f5, and now I'm going to get rid of this rook. And even if you block, you've now taken your eye off of this, so now I can make a second queen. So now I have 2 queens on the board, and the rest of the game is sort of spent just chopping everything down. I sack my queen for the rook, and the bishop has to take, otherwise there would have been a queen trade. I now get the knight, and I'm up a lot of material, which is definitely not a spot I'm very familiar with, but I'm up enough that even the checks don't scare me, because I can always come back. This is the only thing you need to be careful about, is not blundering perpetual check, and I don't, and I force a queen trade, and then I win by just making sure that my rook cuts the king off. This is the easiest way to win a bullet game if you have 10 seconds on the clock. Endgame tip for those of you that play blitz: make sure that the opponent cannot like sneak any pawns by you. Everything here is completely protected. My rook is defended by my pawn, which creates a box, so this king can't trick me, and I'm just going to promote a queen, and that's exactly what I do, and opponent resigns. So that's actually an instructive finish. I mean, how to just kind of make sure everything is done. Nice King's Indian win, so not allowing my opponent to get any counterplay. Nice expansion on the queen side. Very happy. I had a game against 2800 CM from Greece. This player is 2800 on Lichess, and I made them a macaw. So their profile picture is a macaw. They don't have a profile picture. You actually can't have profile pictures on you know. Anyway, opponent played d4, knight f6, and we got a Nimso Indian. And actually, for this game, my opponent played queen b3, which is a pretty rare move. The point of queen b3 is to take back on c3 with the queen. That's sort of the idea. And what's funny is that I had prepared against Christopher Yu in my last tournament. I thought he might play queen b3, so I prepared a sideline. I don't actually have anything like super cutting edge against bishop before queen b3, so I prepared this move, which is not very popular at all, because normally you strike in the center here with c5. And after knight f3, black immediately jumps forward with the knight. So my horses are kind of jumping around. And the point is that I'm trying to take this and still damage the structure. So something like this. Still force white to play doubled pawns. And then play something like d6, b6. That's why I like the Nimso. It's so fascinating. Opponent plays bishop d2, which is actually a terrible move. I can just take it. Bishop d2 is a huge blunder, because you either have to lose the right to castle, or knight d2, knight d4, which is absolutely savage. And if queen b4, knight c2, family fork. Yeah, I admittedly in bullet I did not see that. I just took on c3 and then castled. But knight takes d2 would have been very nice. And so here I played a typical Nimso setup. So you want this knight to survive, so you're gonna glue it in, and then b6, bishop b7 to support the diagonal. So as long as I'm not being confronted, I play f5, and opponent mouse slips. Okay, I mean it's gonna happen. Castles is obviously what my opponent was trying to play there. I play knight c3 and b6. So opponent still gets a little bit of time here to consolidate the king. The fact that they haven't castled actually doesn't mean much. I mean, it's obviously a bullet game, so that's what's going to happen. They expand on the queen side. I play bishop b7 and now d5. At this point, I play takes, knight drops back to e7. So this is very common. I'm now trying to swarm the pawn that has made a little bit too much progress. And at this point, I can take on d5, but I don't because I don't like this. So queen c4 here is crushing for white. Always make sure that before you go taking stuff, you are not on the same diagonal as your king. So even a winning of a pawn, you need to anticipate what your opponent is going to do to you and how it transforms the position. So I play king h8. And then here, I played a5. It's kind of a useful move because you expand on the queen side. ba, just rook a5 and the pawn dies, so that's terrible for white. And b5 is just very ugly. So, I mean, it's just very ugly. The bishop is blocked in completely. And here, I began a very interesting expansion. So it's kind of nice here. The position is probably balanced. I mean, black obviously looks slightly better because white's king is on f1. So I played queen e8 with the intention to play knight g6, and white's king is now completely safe. So white to move. I will sip my water. White to move and attack. Some of you will naturally be drawn to the move knight to e5. It's a very decent move. The problem is that even after something nice like this, you don't actually have anything. Like, this is very well protected. So rook c1, and I mean, you just won't do this. You won't get any attacking with all the pawns in front of your king. Not to mention that, I mean, I can't play queen c3 because this is check, but let's just, with any queen trade, white completely knocks off any attack. No, you actually play a move here that looks impossible. f4. This is what I was trying to set up. I anticipated that the king and the queen would arrive on these squares, and if you take my pawn, if you don't take my pawn, I take you, and I'm bulldozing you with my rook. If you do take, I play this very stylish move, and I arrive with a very powerful attack. You cannot take my rook, because you would be forking your king and queen, and you would lose. So, of course, if you don't take my rook, what I'm going to do now is build around the f-file. So I'm going to have permanent f-file pressure here. So very nice pawn break, playing on the coordination of the white pieces. Of course, just so you understand, this is a very, very bad version. I just lose my knight here. I mean, maybe it's okay, actually. Queen h5, rook f8. I mean, maybe it's fine, but I don't know why you would lose your knight. So rook f4. And the rest of the game, I sort of spent bringing my pieces. And also rerouting this bishop to this diagonal, which is what I did. Bishop c8, rook comes back, just for a little bit, just so I don't blunder anything absolutely not necessary, but, you know, and now I played rook takes f3. So opponent here was actually protecting f3 with the queen, but the second that they did this is called an overload. So the king cannot guard both. Kabam! I now check, removes the guard, and I'm up a pawn, but it's scarier than that. It's scarier than that. I'm actually also threatening some very nasty things with my knight, and my knight is going to arrive on e5. So king h2, rook f8, rook e2, and now knight e5, and I mean, I basically put all my pieces on nice squares. This bishop still sucks, by the way. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's been completely blocked in ever since we forced the pawn forward. Long time ago, that pawn move, right? a5, b5, and now we're just in good shape. And we're going to try to go over here. I'm going to go queen h5, knight f3, queen h2. So whenever you have a queen and knight situation, you want to find the optimal square for your knight. And for the second game in a row, that might mean moving one of your pieces out of the way so that your knight is going to take it. Queen d4 is a good move. It protects the bishop. And again, it's never too late to screw up because the queen is, everything's guarded. So I play check. Now if queen h4, I have this. And if king g1 or king g2, I'm going to go knight f3. And the attack is just successful. I mean, the queen's hanging, queen h2, queen g1 is mate. So opponent plays this. And it's funny, I can take the queen, but I'm like, oh, queen h2, king f1, queen g1, that's mate. King e2, queen e1 is mate. It's just mate, right? So I see this. I just chase the knight. I mean, I can chase the king. It's mate. So I go boom, 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 boom. Mate. I'm like, wait, the game's not over. Like, I just forgot about this. And now my queen is hanging. So if you go, oh, it's not mate, but I go here. No, then you lose your queen. Not so fast. You think, oh, well, that's easy. I'm just going to sack my queen. No, 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 no. Now you're losing. So I was like, wait a minute, what have I done? And I played queen b1 check. I saw queen b1 check, and I won the queen. And you know what the funniest part is? I have mate. Queen d2. I missed it. I missed mate in one. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just freaked out. I was like, oh my God, but it's funny. I actually calculated everything very nicely, and this is a very funny position where all the pieces are surrounding the king, but nobody can guard him. So queen d2 is mate, but it's bullet, so I win his queen, and opponent doesn't resign, so we have to find, like, you know, nice little rook f2, but it's okay. Sometimes when they don't resign, it lets you be creative, like taking all of their pawns, pushing your a pawn. I didn't even take the bishop. I was just pre-moving, and black wins. Nice game, though. Very interesting variation in the Nimso Indian. You know, finding a way to kind of plant my knight here and then play the usual Nimso stuff. So b6, d6, e6, f5 with bishop b7. And, you know, a nice little pawn break over on the king side. f4, rook f4, very instructive, kind of playing on the piece coordination. It's a tough break. I mean, f4, rook f4 is, it's a high level thing. So the last game, like I promised you, I would show you. People in the chat were begging me to make a video of this game. I'm just going to preface this by saying this was a completely, this was a trash game. And if you just clicked ahead to look at this game, you should watch the rest of the video. So this game crashed the other website. Like after this game was played, this game actually did not even count for the tournament because after I won it, the whole tournament crashed. So yeah, I mean, I suppose the win was that staggering that it counted for my profile. I got the rating and I got the result, but it didn't count for the tournament, which is really funny. So this game never registered. So I got paired against Dubov. Obviously, when you play in these tournaments, you just want to play a super GM, Hikaru, Magnus, Alireza, whoever else. And I got Dubov. I was like, oh my God, I'm playing Dubov. That's crazy. So I played, you know, he played Queen's Gambit. And I just took offhand. But I realized that, you know, if I'm gonna allow Dubov to play Catalan, he might kill me because he's one of the best Catalan players in the world. So we played a Queen's Gambit, and I played this Bishop G4 line, which I used to play a lot. Bishop C4, E6. It's bad, but only if White knows what they're doing perfectly, which is really bad when you play Daniil Dubov because he's gonna know exactly what he's doing perfectly. They're also, yeah, like I got some nice wins in this line. This is the way openings work. And then like a book or a course came out and they recommended a line for White that just poses basically unstoppable problems to Black. So, oops. So we have Queen B3. That is actually the critical line. And the point is that Black's B7 pawn is a bit weak. And White actually accepts the damaging of the structure here to take on B7. The best line here for Black is to play C5 and Knight D7, or Knight D7 and C5. And the point is that even though White is winning a pawn, because Black is getting such quick development and quick king safety and Rook B8 and open lines, Black is actually completely fine. But I haven't studied this in a long time. And I mean, Daniil was playing all these moves really quickly. It should also be noted that this is a 2-minute game, not a 1-minute game. So neither one of us berserked. He now plays F4, so he doesn't castle. He plays F4, and he's ready to bring the queen back to F3. Here, I should castle. I should castle, and if he voluntarily retreats, I should play against this. But here, I mean, it's, you know, you're thinking for 2 seconds every move. So I play Rook B8. And my logic is if he goes back, I'm happy because I have the B file. But I actually helped him. That one tempo helps him more than it helps me. I should leave his queen on B7, castle, Queen C7, and kind of get playing. But this, and he actually shocked me here, he castled. I was like, what? Why? Aren't I happy here? I'm going to break in the center. I'm very strong. And he just ignored me. Because if he takes my pawn, I get Knight E5. And, you know, I've had games where I play like Rook up, Rook over, checkmate. And I took, and he just took with the pawn. He just took with the pawn. Like, I've never actually played against somebody who's played like this. That's the best. It's the best way to handle a position. Rook B8 was also an inaccuracy, but, you know, doubled pawns. It's like, how can this possibly be good, right? Like, how can this be good? I mean, Black's got good pressure here. Maybe move the bishop, Knight B6, Queen C8, put the queen on F5. And then I realized what his whole plan was. his whole plan after I kind of, play queen c8, queen f5, etc., maybe get my pieces out, bishop d4 to hit the knight, he's going to play one move here. He's going to go here. And I'm like, uh-oh, Daniil is attacking me. This is very bad. And also he's going to play f5 and bishop h6. So the floodgates are about to open. It doesn't matter that his structure is bad. He's up a pawn. He has two bishops versus just bishop. And also he is much stronger. And also he, he wears more stylish clothes than me. He has a lot of advantages going for him. So queen f5, and he played rook g1. I'm like, oh my god, now he has this. Rook g5 is crushing. So I played this with the idea to play this, but he has rook g5, now I have to go back to c8. And now he develops his bishop. So now it's even worse, because if I trade, I'm just helping him. Now his pawn structure is good, and here comes rook g1. So I'm like, okay, I'm in serious trouble this game. I'm gonna go back. And he plays rook g1, I play g6, he plays f5. I'm like, okay, I'm getting crushed. I mean, this man is just coordinating his pieces beautifully. This bishop is the goat. I don't know what I'm gonna do about it, so I play king h8. He plays bishop f4, very obviously trying to go here. I should here be trying to play knight c4, maybe, knight d2, trying to trade, get some imbalance and try to create some counterplay, but I'm playing passive. I'm playing very passive. And my logic here was, okay, we both have maybe a minute, so just keep close on time so you don't self-destruct, and he has to break your position. And what I actually ended up doing is I sacrificed my material here, because if I move, everything falls. So my position sucks, and everything falls apart. There might be knight e5, though. Oh my god, look at this. Queen h... What? What? Oh, and he's gonna win back everything. He's gonna end up winning back the queen. Yeah, okay, so, in case you're confused. Boop, 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 boop. And, okay, he's just up 2 pawns in an endgame, and I'm gonna lose. So, yeah, I just decided to sack and just be as solid as possible. Like, my pawns are holding my king side together, and I'm just gonna play a little bit more. So I'm completely lost. But, okay, let's play some chess, right? So he comes knight d5. I say, no, you can't have me. He still can't push f6. He plays knight e7. I go up. And actually here, I predicted that he was going to, like, try to trade queens with me. I remember, like, trying to predict his moves during the game. And, like, I played queen d6. And here I was like, he might go queen e7 here. Because just very natural move. And then, keep moving forward. Because as a human, you're just trying to, like, break apart the position. I thought, oh, if queen e7, I'll trade queens and knight f4. And that's exactly what happened. I was like, oh, actually, this is not even so clear anymore. I mean, of course, white is much, much better. But, he's going to play like rook d2. I'm going to jump with my knights. I mean, I might win this pawn. Like, it's not over at all. And I have a lot of pieces now. Trade queens when you're being attacked, right? If you can get some material for it. At the same time, trade queens when you're winning. So I play knight c5. He takes on g6, and now I take with my f-pawn. So now this bishop doesn't even have a target. I'm like, how is he actually going to win this position? I didn't know I was going to play g5, h6, I don't know. Knight e4, and he played rook f1. I played knight e4, and the chess gods smiled upon me. And Daniil Dubov here, after being met with some resistance by old Gotham, played rook d4. And gave me his rook. And I was like, oh my god, I'm beating Daniil Dubov. And, my heart rate probably doubled here. And luckily, it was over fast. Because he played knight d5. If I take, he takes my rook, so I went check. And he just resigned. He just resigned. I was like, I was so happy because there's still tons of doubt in my mind that I'm going to screw something up here with 30 seconds on the clock, but it's actually very, very simple because he's going to have to lose his rook somehow. The easiest way is I take his knight, and then I move my knight with check. So now it's check, he moves here, I take the rook, and if here, I have a fork. So that's the easiest. Whether I would have seen that or not, I don't know, admittedly. In my nervousness, I might have played like knight h3, and then the game would have gone on, and I might have hung my rook, both knights, and my bishop. But yeah, I mean, it's some people were very excited, like, oh my god, you beat Dubov. I can hardly say I beat Dubov, but the result is there. So I got a lot of respect for Daniil, and it just goes to show you the degree of difference in the careers of some chess players. Some chess players beat super GMs in meaningless 2-minute online games, and then everybody wants them to make a video about it. you know, and other people are competing for a spot in the candidates in the World Championship. So, but still a good game, and I had some nice wins. I also lost I lost the game to a 2000. Up a piece. I lost to someone 700 points lower than me, despite being up a piece on move 3. So there was a lot of fun games. And anyway, at the end, this game crashed Lichess. Oh my god, I said the forbidden word, but it's okay. It's okay. It was a running joke throughout the video, and only the people that made it 25 minutes in will actually see this moment. And yeah, after this, the tournament crashed, and they said that they would be resuming it at a later date. So that is the story of the Agadmator Crypto Arena over on the other website. And Hikaru was crushing it. I mean, he was beating everybody. It was unbelievable. Only game he lost was to Eric Rosen, which was hilarious. Well, I'll probably make a full recap once we actually have some closure on this event, and we'll see Hikaru Magnus online in Bullet for maybe the first time ever. So till then, appreciate you all very much. Peace out. Get out of here.